That approximately 27% of Americans are estranged from a family member, and 1 in 4 of those are estranged from a parent. So I want to talk about some key factors today that are driving the distance and how we can try to bridge that gap. It is not a one size fits all. And I'm just going to put this out there right now that if there was abuse towards your children or anything like that related to abuse, there's no excuse for that. Those moms are likely not watching this video right now. And so I'm speaking to you moms who did the best that you could, knowing what you knew at the time. We all are human. We're flawed. We make mistakes, right? There's no such thing as a perfect mother, and there's no such thing as a perfect child. So let's dive into 4 reasons why this could be happening. Number 1 is generational differences. We all know that differences in values and beliefs between generations shift, right? And they can lead to misunderstandings and ultimately estrangement. What's interesting is the priorities change. Those generational gaps we have, the values change generation to generation, the priorities, the beliefs, whether it's religion, faith, cultural, they can cause friction. Because what I've seen more than anything over the past couple years, disagreements over politics, health practices, social issues, all of these misunderstandings, parents who hold firmly to their views without listening and trying to seek to understand, they may inadvertently alienate their children, making them feel unheard or invalidated. A lot of us will say, and I think this is the worst thing that we could say, this is the way I raised you, or this is the way we've always done it. We need to remember that we can lead by example on those sticking points. You don't have to agree. We have to learn to agree to disagree. And that is an art, my friends, that seems to have just gone by the wayside. That is something past generations were able to do. Our world is a different place, right? One example could be if you needed to speak to your child, you may say, I may not fully understand your choices, but nothing is worth losing our relationship over. And I want us to stay close no matter what. That is an open door to trying to seek to understand, even when we don't agree. It may go against every fiber of our being. And I understand that. There's nothing wrong with you feeling upset or disappointed. I get that. But we cannot take that out on our kids. Number 2 is control and overbearing expectations. The dreaded expectations. This is something that every parent deals with. But when you try to control or impose those, that can lead to estrangement. We think that because we're mom, we're able to do those things, and we're really not. What happens sometimes I see too is like even a dad, for example, let's say the dad really criticized their career choice. He wanted your kid to pursue a more secure profession or maybe what they went to school for or, whatever it is. But then they start to feel stifled. And what happens is they slowly start avoidance. They slowly start to avoid you and you wonder why, right? And that really probably is the reason why they don't want to talk about it, because they feel like they can't, they feel like they're not heard. They feel like they can't get an edge up in the conversation. And so it's easier to just walk away sometimes, right? Even though, trust me, I don't think it's easy for them. One thing you could do if you're in that situation, you're trying to support them, you could say, I know you're passionate about your work. How can I encourage you in reaching your goals? Your son or daughter is going to feel supported and understood. And like I said, this does not mean that we have to agree if it's some issue that goes against every grain of your being. But you have 2 choices. You can either support to a certain degree or push them away. And I don't think any of you are wanting to push your kids away over politics or health choices or, work, careers. That's all here. That's all earthly stuff, right? We want this relationship with our children. For those of you that are ready to take that courageous next step in taking care of you as a mom during this difficult time, and you're looking for a lifeline and committed to finding some peace and support, I have a call. It's called a discovery call. It is reserved for moms who are ready to take that next step and want to learn more about it. It's going to give me an opportunity to learn more about what's going on in your situation, how it's affecting you as a mom, because that's where I come in. And then I can see if we're the right fit for coaching together. Spots are limited, so please only sign up if you're serious about prioritizing your own well-being, because you do have to take care of yourself first. All right. Number 3 is perfectionism and high pressure. The dreaded perfectionism. I didn't have that put on me as a kid, but I know a lot of people that have. Just feeling that high pressure, the unrealistic expectations like we talked about, it could make you feel like you never measure up, or potentially, it could lead to estrangement down the road. If you see that in your family or life, these pressures could be a huge contributing factor to why kids are separating. We want to be really careful with that. If you're saying to your child, you're not living up to your potential, that's going to create feelings of failure. They're going to avoid, again, as I mentioned before, they're escaping the constant pressure. It's not that they don't love you, they're escaping the pressure. So rather than that, maybe something you could say was, I'm proud of you for who you are, not for what you achieve. And I'll always be there to support you. Doesn't mean financially, right? But you'll always be there to support them. And then lastly, a big one is emotional neglect or unresolved wounds. These are also significant contributors to estrangement, as many of you know. Some of your kids are accusing you of things that you didn't do. Not saying that those things don't happen in families, because they do. I know a lot of you moms personally, and I know our kids are becoming very confused over things. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. The emotional abuse, not even physical, right? Emotional abuse, the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words could never hurt me. I don't believe that. I used to believe that as a kid. You'd say that on the playground to other kids who were bullying you. I don't believe that anymore, because I think your words have so much power, and they can wound you way more than a physical wound. And so that really is one of the top reasons for estrangement between parents and adult kids. If you were emotionally distant. I had parents who were emotionally distant because I don't think they were capable of giving me the emotional support I needed. They didn't know how to give it. I've lost my parents now, but I love my mom and dad. They were always there for me. I do not hold this against them. I've forgiven them inside of me, because now I understand. I'm an adult. I understand why they weren't capable of doing that. Doesn't mean they didn't love me. Sometimes kids maintain distance, fearing the same hurt they might have gotten from you in their childhood, whether you meant to do it or not. In my example, I don't think my parents ever meant to do that. I don't think that at all. But if you have the courage, if that was you and you have the courage to say something like, you know what, I realize I wasn't always emotionally there for you when you were growing up, and I deeply regret that. I regret the hurt that has caused you. I am really trying to be a better support for you if you'll let me. I mean, these can be amazing conversations for some of you. Because when we can understand some of these dynamics and then acknowledge some underlying issues, this may or may not cover your situation, but it's going to cover a lot of your situations. But this is the way you can take some steps towards healing and rebuilding these relationships. I hope this helps. I will see you in the next video. God bless.